Like many people, I think, I have felt this real pressure to live my life according to lines. Whether it's the timeline that we're expected to live by, the milestones that we're supposed to reach by certain times, or whether it's the sort of general upward trajectory that we're expected to have of, more promotions and more money and owning more stuff. And it makes sense that we have this pressure that we feel we have to be more successful and always be earning more and doing more. That is reflecting and mirroring what society at large kind of expects us to do. Almost every country in the world is trying to get its GDP to constantly grow, to have an economy that is constantly getting bigger, even though you can't grow ad infinitum when there is a finite number of resources on the planet. We also see it with technological progress, this idea that better technology that's quicker and more efficient and better, without stopping to think, do we actually really need to be able to do this in this way and so desperately efficiently and quickly? And the problem is that we are now affecting the natural world and the world around us with this idea of living by lines. The global temperature is just going up now, and the amount of pollution and plastic waste in the world is just continually going up. And the sea levels are rising. Like, we're imposing our lines onto a world that doesn't live by lines. It lives by cycles. And of course, it's a mistake to think that humanity lives by lines and the world lives by cycles, because we are also cyclical creatures. We are part of this world. It's not like our lives are one clear trajectory of youth and health until we get old and sick. No, we have periods of sickness and health and periods of difficulty and struggle and ease and joy. And of course, we are affected by natural cycles. We're affected by the seasons. We feel different in the summer than we do in the winter. And some of us are affected by menstrual cycles and that monthly change of changing mood and energy and needs. And that's something that has taken me many years to understand quite how affected I am. It's a beautiful thing. Change is a beautiful thing, and I don't want to be seeing it as like a problematic thing that I have this cycle within me that changes how I work. I don't want to manage it. I don't want to try and fix it. I want to be with it. These ideas around time and success, it's all very close to my heart, partly because I wrote a very long master's thesis looking at how we understand nature and time, but also because as a kid, I aimed so big. I had such huge dreams of success. Not really money, it was more like artistic dreams of doing amazing, beautiful, artistic, creative things, and like a little bit of fame too. And I really have not achieved any of those. And I think that's been top of my mind lately because I recently turned 30. So all of those timeline milestones that I'm expected to hit really feel at the forefront as I watch my peers do so many of the things that I'm meant to have done by now. And I really am spending a lot of time thinking about, what does success actually mean to me? I think I also was thinking a lot about this last year when I went to music school. Going to music school really represented for me finally achieving a dream. I was finally going to write and record and release my own music. Isn't this what I've dreamed of since I was a kid? And, I've done that. I've released music and it's been great. But the environment of my music school, don't get me wrong, I learned a lot and I met some lovely people, but oh my God, it did not suit me. It was how to get into the music industry and how to be earning money, which I understand. That's fine, whatever. But it was also, how can we write a song in an hour? In half an hour, in 10 minutes. How can we release a single every 6 weeks? How can we get more followers and more listeners and more success? And of course that's needed to an extent, but oh my God, that's not how I want to live creatively. That's not how I want to write music. I don't want to feel like I have to be writing and recording and releasing another song just because the algorithm wants me to see me release something every 6 weeks. It was only afterwards that I realised this pattern, but I found myself writing all of these songs about success and really pushing against that world and saying, no, actually, I don't want success in this way. And I wrote all of these songs that were really criticizing and tearing down the mainstream ideas of success, earning lots of money and having lots of technology that makes our life so easy, without thinking how we got that technology and who suffered to make it for us. So I named the EP Denial of the Dark, which is a line from what was actually my first single, Stolen Stars, because I felt like so much of this aiming towards success was a desperate attempt in our modern society to run away from darkness, to run away from suffering, right? It's trying to have all of this technology that makes our lives so easy and simple. It's trying to create a world where there isn't suffering, and of course that's not possible. There's always going to be suffering. Aiming and desperate, trying to reach higher goals and bigger successes all of the time is also creating so much suffering and creating so much darkness for other people, and other beings that we sometimes don't think about and can't see. That's what my EP is really looking at. It's questioning, what are we really aiming for in life? What is success really? Do we want this?
Hate is a language like soap, tastes bitter. Smoke snowflakes on children's tongues. Frozen medals, congratulations on your destruction. And miners peck the ground like chickens. A lonely mitten longs to be seen. Playtime is over. This first song is Birdwatching, and I didn't actually write the words. They were written by my friend Elizabeth. We were at school together, music school together, and we had an exercise where we had to write lyrics for someone else to set. And so these are the lyrics that I got from her. And it was such a strange experience when I first got them, because I remember reading through the words and thinking, I could have written this. Like, I feel like I'm reading my own words. What I really love about these lyrics is that there's this kind of quiet mockery of success. It's kind of quietly questioning, what future are we giving our children, and what lives do we expect them to live in the city. And so when I came to interpreting it musically, I wanted to really have this feeling of gentleness, because it's exploring this idea of birdwatching and what if we saw the world in a different way, but also this sense of like something's not quite right. So the key of the song is officially in E. I'm going to get into music theory now. And it starts there in the B and then the A. And then I immediately go to this, and I think it's F sharp major 11. And so immediately it's outside of the key in like this slightly strange place. Then for most of the verse, it is sitting there for ages. And so I wanted this feeling of like, even though you really get used to sitting in that chord because it's so present for so much of the verse, it is technically outside of the key, so it always feels slightly kind of uncomfortable. And so the only time that you actually come home to the chord of E, birds were always watching, the birds were always watching. I also put it in 7/8 so that it has a slightly interesting and unusual musical feeling compared to a lot of songs we hear today. And maybe our ideas of success in life really need to be interrogated and reimagined. All around the world people looked up at night, found creatures and myths that explain their lives. They counted on their canvas to mark the time, their fates and poetics of love. But now we don't look up, we look down instead, and blind our minds with electric lights that promise us more stuff, information and friends, while above our heads our demands flash bright. The stories of the stars, the tales that they tell, the denial of the dark. I won't actually talk too much about this song because I've already made an entire video going through a lot of the themes that I was looking at. But it was primarily inspired by two things. One was a book called Mörker Manifestet, which was looking at light pollution and how it affects the natural world and human beings. And then the second thing, funnily enough, was that Tumblr post that it's talking about rich billionaires putting satellites up into the sky, and there's a line in it that says, "They will steal the very stars from us." And I think that's been living in my brain ever since I read it. And actually this song went through many lyric versions and attempts at writing for many years, and it was only this year or last year that I finally managed to actually pin it down. As I say later in the song, it feels like painting over the sky with our own ambition. The idea that we could lose the night sky because a couple of billionaires want to put up a whole network of satellites, I think is just one of the most heartbreaking things. And especially the fact that us little people down here, it feels like there's very, very little that we can do about it. If in the future we really have completely lost the night sky, this song is hopefully like a little testament that we didn't want this and we wanted to keep those ancient stories of the stars. When you think about, for most of human history, people have been able to go outside and look up and see all of the stars shining, and now you have to go to special places in the world to find somewhere that is dark enough to be able to see the stars themselves. Yeah, I definitely think there's a big question there about what is success and what do we really want. All we want in one hand, small screens shining. All we want in one hand, your wishes are command. Oh, the apple sweet, plucked from the tree with ease, without a thought for who built Eden. The apple sweet, plucked from the tree with ease, without a thought for who built Eden. Okay, I'm not going to play any more of that one because I don't actually play the guitar on the EP. It was recorded by my friend Lucas, who is a much better guitarist than me, so sorry that was a little bit dodgy. Anyway, this is another one that came from a very particular inspiration source. I was on the train to music school and I was listening to this podcast that was talking about Apple, the company Apple, and how they had been lobbying in China to make factory conditions worse for workers to try and, get more and more productivity for cheaper and cheaper. And the conditions in one of the factories had got so bad that I think it was 12 people committed suicide within the space of a month. I then came to school and we had to write a song that morning, and I just was like, I need to write about this. There was a kind of deep irony that I was listening to that podcast on a device, and all of this is involving so many devices that are made out of those materials that are being produced by people in other parts of the world, and they are suffering huge amounts. We get to live in this brilliant world with so much technology and so much access to so many things, but all of that is coming from people who have suffered so greatly under capitalism. Of course, this is something that I think has only become more and more relevant as there's been more awareness raised in the last few months about Congo and the mining of precious materials and the horrific human rights abuses that are happening there. But yeah, once again, just sort of all of this ease and success that we have, there's this expectation to make everything more and more technological. We're having freaking smart fridges these days. Who needs a fridge with a computer in it, for God's sake? That does have an effect on people in other parts of the world. You want it, don't you? More and more and more. Doesn't matter where it's from, as long as it's all you can get, you claim, according to the law. Doesn't matter what it's for, as long as it's yours. You think it's nice and shiny, this pile of money, and I bet you think this is your golden age. No peace, no freedom, built on blood, ones and zeros. Are you really proud of your fucked up golden age? Yeah, so this one, Golden Age, is definitely sort of my most my strongest anti-capitalist, anti-growth, anti-billionaire anthem. I was actually inspired by Hosier's Eat Your Young for this one, and how he's sort of talking directly to the people who would sacrifice their own children for their own sort of luxury. And so in this, I was imagining that I was talking directly to Elon Musk. He's not the only billionaire that I have problems with, but he was the one who was on top of my mind when I wrote this song. And I just really kind of wanted to mock him for his success, really. Like, oh, you've got all of this money and you're the richest man in the world. Are you happy though? Are you? To be clear, you don't get that rich. You don't get that rich without exploiting other people. It's kind of physically impossible to earn or to sort of be deserving. Like, has he given enough to the world to deserve several hundred billion? No. And so it was particularly the chorus where I wanted to have this image of like this empire of oppression, that it's built on the suffering of others, and all of his stocks and shares, it's all just ones and zeros in the atmosphere. It doesn't mean anything. Who actually cares? And so in the bridge, which interestingly became my favourite part of the song, even though it was the most sort of improvised in the studio, in that I really wanted to remind him of like the true wealth in life, the true gold. And so I have all these different gold things that you can find just in everyday life and bring us so much more happiness than piles and piles of money. You don't know the half of it, darling. You've barely tasted a drop. I try to show how the river flows. They're both still tied at the dock. You don't know the half of it, darling. This ocean shines so blue, full of life and shipwrecks that I sunk just for you. Ocean Inside is definitely an outlier on the EP because it's not explicitly about capitalism or anything, but I just couldn't get rid of the feeling that the vibe fit anyway. And I think it's because it's sort of looking at darkness. This one is a lot more personal to me, and I think it's one that I'm not comfortable like talking about. Whatever you take from it when you listen to it, that's fine. Like, my artistic expression is fine, but I think I don't really want to like tell the story behind it. But it is definitely looking at learning to love the darkness inside of me, redefining success and happiness for myself. So even though it's not about capitalism, I think it's kind of the emotional side and the work that a lot of us maybe need to do in order to be anti-capitalist. You see, I just want to live without doing any harm, like maybe on a farm, but I'm just a girl in 2025. Feels like everything I buy funds the fucking genocides, and I just want to know, can I still sing my songs without some guy using them to buy wardrobes? I wrote this song in quite an unusual way for me. Normally I sit down and I work a lot with the text first, and so that I know what a song's going to be about, and then I try to find the music that expresses that. But with this one, it just came out of me. I just found out about the news of Daniel Ek, the former CEO of Spotify, and how he had used his shares to fund an AI military startup. This is why my music isn't available on Spotify, by the way. And I just heard the news, and I was so angry, and I just finished music school, and I was sort of full of like, what am I going to do next with my music career? And I felt so emotional about it because I was suddenly like, what industry am I getting into? Do I really want to be part of this world? And so I sat down at the piano and just started playing and singing and seeing what came out, what words came out. And, you know, I've done a couple of really minor changes to some of the words before recording it properly, but it's pretty much still in its original state. I definitely wrote it as a catharsis of all of that frustration that we feel when there are these billionaires using our money to fund things that we are vehemently against. But I also really wanted to tap into the hope that there still is with music, because, of course, me not being on Spotify, not having my music on Spotify, is not the be all and end all of my music. There is still, going down the pub and listening to someone singing a folk song and just getting together with friends and singing. Music will always live in community. Music has survived millennia, and it will continue to survive regardless of what the industry tries to do to it. I hesitated a lot to have this as the last song in the EP because I was worried it was kind of finishing on a bit of a depressing note. I realised that, that the final line, I don't know how to live in 2025 without being the reason someone dies. Technically, it's a really depressing note just to end on. But there were two things. One, that I felt like it was saying, I don't know how to live, but that kind of opens it up for thinking about it. Thinking about, okay, well, how could I live? Also, slightly, okay, I was supposed to release this EP on my birthday, which was early December 2025. Got delayed. But I also kind of like it now that the song is very, very much in 2025. It's about 2025 things that have been happening. The whole rhyme scheme is based on 2025, and now we're in 2026. So there is this sort of feeling of like, that needed to be said, that needed to be let out, but it's in the past and we can move on now.
I'm really glad I got these songs out of my system. When I went to music school, they weren't what I expected to write. Before I went to music school, I'd been writing all of these songs that were really about interconnection and deep feeling and love for the natural world. And then when I was at music school, I found myself suddenly writing all of these really angry and sad, anti-capitalist, quite on-the-nose songs. It's only now that I realise that I think that was me reacting against this world that I was suddenly finding myself in, where, there was this speed and slightly capitalist way of looking at music that I just didn't vibe with very well. I felt like I needed that catharsis, and I hope that the songs provide a catharsis for other people of that anger and sadness and frustration at this, the injustices of the world that we live in right now, and how some people are getting to be crazy successful but at the suffering of everyone else. And so I'm not sure what's coming next for me, creatively and musically. I don't want to try and rush into the next thing. I want to be in a period of exploration and playfulness and childishness, actually. And I've been doing some reading, as I often turn to when I am looking for guidance in life. I'm been reading these books that look at how to live in a different way, how to live in a way that slows down and honours cycles and different abilities. And one of them's Half-Assed Human by Lena Norms. Another is Wintering by Catherine May. Really enjoying that one. I'm gonna read How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell. And yeah, by the way, if you want to read along with me, I'm doing a bit of a reading challenge this year. I'll link the video where I explain more about it, and if you'd like to join me on that, then please do. I want to explore and experiment and find this new way of being, not this reactive, resisting energy of like, I hate capitalism, but instead going, okay, what is the world that I want to be in? How is it that I actually want to live? And making music that explores that. And that's probably going to take some time. So it might be a while until my next single or album, but I think that's fine. I'm happy with that. That would be success for me. If I find that way of being, that's my version of success. Or actually, no, you know what's my version of success? Is sitting out here in the snow. I love snow so much. I'm so happy and I'm so glad to be here right now. So if you have snow where you are, I think this is the perfect time to think about this kind of thing, to think about slowing down and how we live with the seasons, not against the seasons. So go out and enjoy the snow. That's my tip. And also listen to my EP, please. That would be nice. Yeah.